We are going over New Mutants issue 71. And if I'm reading this right, this is essentially kind of like the beginning of Inferno. And what do I mean by that? Let's dive into it. And right off the bat, I love this cover. We're seeing this real messed up version of, I think you pronounce his name Sid, the demon that worked for Belasco before he was slain, I think. Anyway, we'll talk about that at another time. And then we see all the New Mutants here in peril, and then just this awesome little messed up face of Warlock. Love it. That said, the New Mutants are essentially, when you open the page, you are dumped directly into Limbo. There's just no chill at this point. It's just straight up, here we are. And Bobby, Limbo looks like trouble. Port us out of here, Illyana. I'm trying, Bobby. I'm trying. So Stan Lee presents, brought to you by Louise Simonson writing, Bret Blevins penciling, Al Williamson inks, Joe Rosen doing the letters, Glynis Oliver colorist, Bob Harris editor, and Tom DeFalco editor-in-chief. And the print date on this was January 1989. And right here, I love the splash pages. The New Mutants go against these demons. And even though this is Bret Blevins, should I get his name right? Because I'm Blevins. I'm not familiar with that artist, but I like it because when you look at it, like, don't get me wrong, he has his own style. But when you kind of look at the angles and just the over stylization, you can't tell me that you don't see an inspiration from Bill Sienkiewicz right here. I can't do it. I can't port us out. I can't make a stepping disc to enter Earth. We're stuck here in Limbo. Maybe forever. These mutant teenagers are old hands at this. They've teleported many times, always using Limbo as a way station between jumps, because that's how Illyana's powers work. But Limbo was never like this. And even when Sam here, he says, I'm invulnerable when I'm blasting, monster. Better wish up your biggest weapon spear, Danny. You're going to need it. We did leave Danny. We went off into space, and I did learn there are others besides me with demons in our souls. It's how we deal with evil that counts. And what's interesting about this comic is how even though Illyana has her armor, I guess you call it her soul armor, you can see the Darkchylde coming through. And you can see that Illyana is not okay. And she even goes after Sid, and she goes, how dare you turn my kingdom against me, Sim? Said Sim. Why blame Sim, Darkchylde? Limbo's yours, no question. Reflects what you are. Not Sim's fault it turns your stomach. Your turn my stomach. You turn my stomach, monster. I won, but guess again, babes. Sim's infected with the transmode virus, remember? Sim techno-organic now. Your magic sword can't disrupt me. Nothing can destroy Sim, but he can destroy you. My sword, I created it from a piece of my soul. And even though she has the Darkchylde look on her face, you can see that human side of her just going, how is all this happening? How? Souls corrupted by Limbo's dark magic, sweets. So is your sword. So much power for others to tap into. Dark power. Its bare touch conjures monsters. And so they get a moment to flee. But unfortunately, they can't go to Earth. She can only use her stepping discs, which is her innate mutant power, to at least get away from the skirmish. And this is where we're introduced to these names, man. Nisatrith? Nisatrith? You've been spying on Sim from your lair on Earth. Where is your trust? Sim would not kill your precious Sim's honor. Our agreement, Sim meant only to scare her. You actually tried to decapitate her with her own sword. Sim, you might have killed her. That would not have been wise. Better take a nicer tone with Sim, Nasrith. Sim has the sword. Sim has the power. Sim rules Limbo now, and soon Sim will rule all of the Earth. And so this is where, and for me, this is what's valuable about this book. It may not be like on Overstreet or, hey, this book's worth thousands of dollars. But in terms of like X-Men fandom and X-Men mythos, and actually what built the X-Men, not Krakoa, not all that, not Jim Lee, but Chris Claremont, Louise Simonson, and Anna Santi did. Here, they fall into this cavern. Where are we? I called a stepping disc, and it brought us here, to the place where I first met the demon lord Belasco, to the throne room, here in Limbo, where he lured me. Lured you how? I was with my brother and the X-Men on the island where the wall between Earth and Limbo was weak. I heard Belasco's call me, and I came, and I fell into a stepping disc, and it brought me here. I think I heard his call because of an inborn affinity with Limbo. After all, I was born with the power to control its teleportation discs. And what I love with the dialogue is, people, and I've kind of found this predominantly on TikTok. Let me know what you guys think. But they talk about, this is why old comics are so hard to read because of all the dialogue. And yes, you've heard me hound on that. But this is where I make the distinction. I hate wordy dialogue that either sounds like a, what's the word I'm looking for, soapbox, or just goes on. And I've used the example of New Mutants #1 from the Krakoa age. And don't get me wrong, I like Ed Brisson, but it was like almost 2 pages of them standing around and arguing over coffee. And Illyana was like, no! And she grabs the coffee pot. It was a whole stupid thing. It didn't lead anywhere. This dialogue is bringing in new readers and kind of setting the pace. And once I finish this page, for those of you that may not be initiated to the X-Men mythos, I'll explain. But let me finish, and I just kind of wanted to set that up before we went any further. Oh, and I almost forgot my little point. While we're reading this, the artwork is enhancing what's happening because she finds the throne. And you can see that she just naturally sits down defeated on Belasco's throne. She goes, when I got here, Belasco gave me a locket and said that he loved me, and I believed him. I was only 6 years old. Belasco really wanted to use me to bring the evil gods he served to Earth. But I didn't know that then. Is that what Sim means to do? No, Sim serves himself. And then the X-Men followed me to Limbo and tried to save me, and one by one they died. Now again, before we finish, one thing that I will say about this era of New Mutants, Reign is not my favorite. I know she's supposed to be like the young naivete one, and because of her past, for those of you that may not know Wolfsbane's origin, and I don't what's the word I'm looking for? I don't proclaim to know it to a T, but from what I understand, she was an orphan that was living in like a Catholic cathedral in Ireland, I think it is, or Scotland. I think it was Ireland. And basically they treated her like crap and used the Bible like as religious zealots do and beat her with it rather than what it's supposed to be about love. And so she's having, being in the New Mutants now, she's having a hard time accepting all these new things that she is, what do you call it, that she's introduced to. And so I understand it, but she comes off as very judgmental, and it grinds on you after a while. But that's what happened. She didn't know anything else. She was raised in that, what's the word I'm looking for? Not zealotry. There's a word for it. Dogma, I guess, is the best word. Not being taught love and what loving one another as Christ loves us, as the Bible says. Is, oh, you're a demon and you're evil. And so she's having a hard time deprogramming from that. So I understand it, but it's still hard to read. And I bring that up here. So she's saying, how'd the X-Men die? Bones. And then I like is how, as Illyana's on the throne, the vulnerability that we saw here fades away and her face gets more twisted. She goes, Nightcrawler's foot. Cat phased into the ground and killed him. He'd become a sick thing by then. A monster. Cat? Who's... This is Cat. What's left of her. Grown, changed, twisted. And look at how her movements change in the artwork. Twisted demonically by Belasco. You know her as Shadow Cat, Kitty Pryde. Now that we read that page, why I'm making such a big deal out of this, as we're going over it, I'm still to finish issue 4. We will get there, I promise, but I've done issues 1, 2, 3. It was a miniseries that came out in the earlier part of the 80s that was called, the first 3 issues were called Storm Illyana and Storm or something like that. And then the last one, issue 4, was called Magik, when she kind of finally became the Darkchylde. And in that one, it takes place after the X-Men story where she fell into limbo. And in that book, essentially, Cat pulled her out, or Kitty pulled her out, and she was older, and everyone was really surprised by it. And so the miniseries serves to show what happened to Illyana with her time in limbo. And so what I like is how Louise Simonson and Claremont and Nasanti here are taking what they wrote back in the early 80s and kind of making it like a stage for Inferno. It's a really nice way to tie it all together. So I'll make sure to leave the playlist here so you guys can check it out, or get the collected trade or the singles, because it is really twisted what happens to Illyana. And I'm glad that they take the time to at least flesh it out here to show the internal turmoil, why she's always kind of the black sheep of the New Mutants in that regard. And even though her movement starts to get twisted and we see her tell, we still see the inner Illyana fighting with this evil that is part of her soul. I fought her and killed her. Even here, she was my best friend and I killed her. Nightcrawler, my brother, Colossus, Wolverine, they all died around me because of me. Storm tried to save me from the dark seed Belasco had planted in my soul. And I killed her too, to keep her from the eternal damnation at Belasco's hands. I blamed Belasco for what I'd become, but I chose it. I must have. No one made me murder my best friend. She's popped her cork. Illyana, you're wrong. You're crazy. The X-Men are dead now, sure, but they died on Earth, and only recently. So this was kind of, I think, Fall of the Mutants. I think. Or maybe when they went to space, I can't remember. Those parts of X-Men history always get jumbled in my head. But anyway, and even Warlock chimes in. Self-Friend, Nightcrawler, and Kitty are still alive. You cannot have killed them. You're our friend. You couldn't have. You didn't? Did you? And that's coming from Rain. And then the next page, look at her face. The shadow, the silhouette, the spotlight. Oh, yes. Time is different here, you see. And alternate choices mean alternate timelines. And alternate people are created. It's difficult to explain. I made the right choices, the ones that let me live and led me back to Earth while the others were trapped here and died. You sound almost proud of yourself. Sometimes in the heat of battle, people die, but murder Illyana? For any reason? It's a terrible place. Things will be different when we're home. Please, let's go home. Why didn't you tell us this before? Why are you saying this can't be true? It can't be true. It can't. And that's what I mean by Rain driving me nuts, and it grates. Anyway, essentially what this book breaks down to is kind of a leading the reader into what that miniseries meant. So it's a nice little refresher. And then we actually, as they go in through limbo, Nasrin, whatever you pronounce his name, starts to show them parts of her past where Sim treated her like crap when she was a little girl and beat her. Sim doesn't like your attitude. What are you doing, Illyana? Have you gone mad? She's just a wee child, an innocent baby. Rain, stop. We have to save her. And again, look at the use of color. When we actually see Illyana have moment, how the color palette changes. Don't you understand anything? That baby is me, the way I was when I first came here. During that last jump, we teleported in time, as well as space, into the past. My past. Sim's punishing me for some imagined transgression. He did that whenever he could catch me. I remember. I don't want to remember. We can't stop him, don't you see? We have to leave her. Me, to learn what I can from this. A lesson in hatred. So I'll be around to defeat Belasco and become this monster that I am. So that I'll learn to control the stepping discs and maybe send you home. That's too high a price to pay. And so as they continue, you see Rain's innocence, her naivete, but she starts to really be leery of Illyana. So does the rest of the team. But then we cut away to the Hellfire Club. And at this point, even though what's kind of weird, and this is the part of the New Mutants I've been trying to dive into, is after Xavier, I think he goes away to space with Lilandra, he appoints Magneto as the head master of the Institute. And so he is the leader of the New Mutants. But they don't trust him. And it's weird because even though he seems to have atoned, He is also part of the Hellfire Club. That's why you see him with Shaw, Celine, and Emma. And what happens at this part, you cannot probably see this. This what kind of bugs me is you wouldn't see something like this in modern Marvel DC, but you would because comics have gotten grittier since the 90s. But this was done in such a way that I just don't see it happen. Maybe like Image or Valiant or Dark Horse. But what do I mean? Is they're on top of the Empire State Building. Didn't know it'd be so high. Too bad about the haze. If it just let up, but I could see all the way to, and we see him pull back. My eyes, my eyes, my eyes now. Lock 'em, blink, blink. And it's almost like that violent, like Roger Rabbit or Heavy Metal Magazine violence. Freaking telescope, telescope, sure, why not? Rips his eyes out and takes. So we see how Limbo is starting to converge into New York. Hence why I said this is like the beginning of Inferno. So as the book goes on, they finally come head to head with Nassereth, the demon who stopped Sim from killing me. Why? I watched you through precognitive magic, and you've summoned you into the past via transportation spell of my own devising. More cumbersome than your elegant natural approach, but as effective in its way. I need to speak to you privately. Traveled into the far past, and now I have mastered them all. You see, I have a natural affinity for dark magic. Sim's army is amassed for an invasion. I will help you defeat him, save your friends, escape to Earth. In dealing with demons, there's always a price. You wound me, Darkchylde. I offer help because I love you. Sound familiar? So anyway, without ruining the whole book, I am going to spoil the last page just so you can kind of see how the Inferno really begins. But this plot here, I'm going to leave alone. I just wanted to give you guys enough of a taste of what that miniseries, the significance of it tying into Inferno. So they do get home. And what's interesting, again, is how we saw Illyana with her soul magic, but we still see the Darkchylde tell her eyes. And as she sat on Belasco's throne, you see how she starts to divulge slower slower to the point where we get this last page. Look what's happened to her. I have this sword, demon, and you are nothing. Earth is safe from you, greed. And the stepping discs are again mine to command so hard. Some residual barrier still blocks the way. Push against it with all my power, force my way through to Earth. And as we come to this, look at how she's fully the Darkchylde again. But as they land in New York, look at Times Square. Demons falling from the sky. And that is how the Inferno begins. So guys, again, this isn't one of those books where it's like, oh my god, this is like the 1/1000th variant comic book exclusive variant, or this isn't the death or the first appearance. But if you're like me and you're just a nerd for X-Men history and mythos, this is where it's at, my friends. Because I love that this ties back into that miniseries and shows how the Inferno began. So if you've enjoyed what you've seen, please first and foremost support your local comic shop or wherever you like to get your action figures and comics and grab this series. Definitely worth it. And if you've enjoyed this review, really would appreciate taking a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Helps the channel more than you could possibly know. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that fancy little limbo bell, next subscribe. That way as I can upload content, you guys get notified. Come to the channel, and I love talking with you all and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments or the socials, which I'll make sure the links down in the description. And if you enjoy what I do and you want to support the channel, I've left a PayPal link in the description. And if not, I still appreciate you watching this video. Either way, thank you so much for stopping by. Hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting.